All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Sunday, April 13th. We have a full NBA slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'm going to give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. Talk about any other plays like player props that we like in the game as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That'll take you to all of my final plays, so I'm actually rolling with myself. If that does interest you, it's absolutely free down in the pinned comment. All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I tell you guys I'm a dummy all the time. They don't suck. They've just been sucking. Get them down to -3, 4 more juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. Tell me you're new without telling me you're new. So don't go jumping down my throat in the comments, right? If you want to fade me, or if you do want to ride me, this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? And remember, more chins, more wins. All right, to recap, so we have 2 days ago to recap because there was no NBA yesterday, and we have our season record here as well. You can see on the season up 13.9 units. I'm happy with that. I know we'll get comments being like, oh, but last year you were up 80-something units, and it's like, yeah, that's all well and dandy, but if that number is green, I'm damn happy with that. To recap, 2 nights ago, we had Rudy Gobert over 10.5 points. That cashes. And then the parlay that we had, the slimy little parlay, Heat -1.5, Clippers -1.5, Warriors -1.5. The damn Clippers won by 1 point. So that 1 point screwed that 3-leg parlay and prevented us from cashing both of our plays on, what would that have been, on Thursday? On Friday, right? So yeah, decent season to start, but we still do have, one last regular season day, as well as the playoffs to dive into. And like I've said in all of my recent videos, I'm so excited for some of these playoff matchups. Guys, it is a weird day, though. Obviously, some of these games don't matter. Some teams are sitting guys, so be conservative. These are all very weird games. They're really early. A lot of them don't really matter in terms of standing, so we'll go through all that, but if we go through some of these games quicker than normal, that's really just the reason why. And honestly, starting it off with Miami taking on Washington. First, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's get rocking here. But Miami taking on Washington, I think you could throw into the realm of I don't know how much it matters. You do have Miami. They're in the 10 seed, so they're a play-in team right now, a game back of the Bulls. Not like anything's really going to change. So yeah, I don't think this game's going to matter all that much. If we look at the injury report, a lot of these guys, are sitting out for both squads. Washington, not exactly voluntarily, but Miami pretty much. So instead of saying who's out, let me just go through the starting lineup to make it a little bit shorter. Mitchell, Robinson, Jaquez Jr., and Highsmith and Kel'el Ware are starting for Miami. I still think that that's a hell of a lot better than Carrington, Johnson, Champagnie, George, and Sarr for this Washington squad. So I'll lean towards Miami minus the points. But again, this is not a game that I really think that we're going to be investing too much time throughout the day in. Overall, I just think that Miami is the better defensive team. They'll be able to slow it down. So I like the idea of Miami as well as a Washington team total under. It doesn't really make sense to me as to why Washington would even put their best foot forward in this game, right? Like they're probably so ready for this offseason. Now, the line you're going to get for their total is pretty low at 105.5, but again, I just don't really see why they'd want to play, fast-paced basketball. Last 3 times they even played Miami, 98, 90, 94 points. So Washington under 105.5 would be a look for me in this one. And again, if I had to pick a side, Miami, because at least some of these role players and bench guys, I mean, there are some starters and some guys that get minutes that are playing. At least they'll want to kind of roll into the playoffs with some momentum behind them. All right, Brooklyn taking on New York. Now, New York, we have to wait this injury out. They are not like the Heat and just giving us the injury report right in front of us. Brunson's questionable, Hart's questionable, Anunoby's questionable. Karl-Anthony Towns is also questionable. So, yes, we'll have to kind of wait this one out and really see who is playing before, I guess, we dive into it overall. I don't mind the idea, though, of taking a peek at someone like Mikal Bridges over 1.5 threes for plus 140. He might not play, but he doesn't have any injury designation to him, right? But who knows? Right before the game, we know there's ways around these injury reports, right? And throw in the fact that, he's hit this in 3 straight games. He's going up against his old team. So I think there's a lot of factors here, and I don't think any of these Knicks guys are going to want to play like rough them up type basketball. So I do expect some more perimeter play. So for plus money, that was something that I considered. But again, even if some of these guys play, like say Mikal Bridges plays, right? You might just be getting the first 5 minutes out of him so they can get a game started and a game played in the books, and then they get yanked. So this is a spot in which I would say Brooklyn's probably the side that I lean towards, because I don't think that Knicks bench is all that phenomenal, especially with some of the injuries that they've had. And if these guys sit out, those guys will be kind of sliding in. Now, you can go out there and make the exact same argument for Brooklyn, right? Well, no Russell, no Sharp, no Johnson. Zaire Williams might miss this one. They got Reese Beekman starting at point guard. He's now even questionable. So it's like, yeah, this is a weird team. But at the same time, they've been playing with sort of these mishmash pieces for a little bit longer. Again, I hate to sound like a broken record. I'm sorry if this isn't your guys' favorite NBA breakdown show of the year, but I don't think that we're going to get there ourselves. That Bridges one is interesting to me, but again, I don't know how much he's going to play. That kind of worries me. So anything we touch today is going to be a little bit dicey. Where I could see this going is an over. Is it backing Brooklyn's offense? No, I wouldn't say that, but I do think Brooklyn's defense is on a pretty decent decline, and I'm hoping that New York, they put up, 117 against the Celtics. That was a good defense. It did go to overtime, though. I think that they probably would have scored 107 without that. Then 106 against Detroit, then 102 against Cleveland. These defenses are far better than what we have from Brooklyn. If nobody plays, then I expect the Knicks to actually kind of up the tempo. So either way, I don't really mind an over 214 in this spot. All right, guys, it is your last chance. Yes, your last chance to grab the Bryson 0.5 strokes square over on Underdog. He is in second place. He's going to be playing with Rory this afternoon. If you're watching this in the morning, race over to Underdog. Sign up. You'll get this square. You can use code GuyBoston or just use the link down in the description, and I'll put it in the pinned comment. You're also going to get a deposit bonus up to $1,000. I think it's like half of what you put in. So if you put in $100, you'll get 50. If you put in 2,000, you get 1,000. Whatever the breakdown is, you'll get that deposit bonus, which is really, really cool and nice of Underdog. How nice of them, right? But realistically, this square is pretty damn cool. Have some juice on the Masters this afternoon. Even if you're not a golf guy, you'll be watching the Masters. Even if you're not a golf girl, you'll be watching the Masters. So go ahead and check it out. That link will be down below in the description, as well as the pinned comment. Let's keep things moving here. We got Milwaukee taking on Detroit. So the Bucks pretty much solidified where they are. Same thing with the Pistons. We take a peek at the injury report here, and Giannis is most likely not playing. Kuzma's listed as probable. Cade Cunningham also has an injury designation. Thompson, Ivy, and Stewart all already out for the Pistons. So this is the type of game that I would say that, Giannis being out is a massive factor, right? That's why that they're 7.5-point favorites. But this is the type of game where I see a team like Detroit really focusing in on and thinking, okay, even if Cade doesn't play, right, they're still going to have, some of their starters. Malik Beasley's getting a start here, but Tobias Harris, Jalen Duren, and Cade Cunningham's probable. So let's keep that in mind. This is the type of game, let's make your point, Ev, that I feel like coming in as the 6th seed into the playoffs, they avoided the play-in. They're, amongst the Pacers, the Bucks, the Celtics, the Cavs, the Knicks, like some really good teams, right? And they had a very good season. I do think that they want to put their best foot forward in this type of a spot and kind of build some momentum. The problem is, and this is a real problem, guys. One, we saw this matchup, 3 days ago, right? 2 days ago, and Milwaukee won. Now, that was a Milwaukee team in which Giannis kind of went off, and, we didn't exactly, and Cade Cunningham went off, and when you have just one-on-one like that, Giannis is going to win that, right? We didn't have the best of games from some of the other guys, but it was still a good game. My point being is that Detroit's going to head into this one and I think care a little bit more and really, like I said, try and build some momentum. The problem is Milwaukee owns them. Like they're walking the little dog saying, do not poop in the house. We're going to go outside. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Last 10 games, they're 10-0 against this squad. I think they're 6-4 against the number. We have seen a lot of overs, so maybe that's something to consider. 8-2 in their last 10 to the over. We're dating back to 2 years ago, right? So let's not get all excited about it, but I don't mind the idea of an over in this spot. But I kind of like the Pistons. I think the Pistons get their get back, and this should be a team. If they're not, they're going to have some problems, but this should be a team that is overly hyper-fixated and focused on the idea of saying, okay, we're going to be one of the youngest teams in playoffs. Let's make sure we're focused in a good spot heading in. If they're not doing that, then I think that we got some problems there in Detroit. Did I say Pittsburgh team? Detroit team. Either way, I'm going to lean towards Detroit as well as the over. Might like the over a little bit more. Indiana taking on Cleveland. I will say this Indiana team has impressed me, late in the season. They still not really covering games, and they lost to Orlando, but not really covering games. They finish out the year in their last 10 games 7-3, just 3-7 against the number. But if you guys don't know, Cleveland's already kind of said, all right, well, we're going to sit everyone for the rest of the season. Porter, Jalen Tyson, Javonte Green, Chuma Okeke, and Jared Allen starting for Cleveland. At least Jared Allen's in there. Whereas Indiana looks like no Halliburton, no Pascal Siakam, but they still do have those guys. Ben Shepherd's also doubtful. They still have plenty of guys that kind of fill in, right? Like I do think Obi Toppin can fill in and probably has a little leg up on Chuma Okeke. Then you have TJ McConnell, Craig Porter, you know what I mean? Like Indiana still probably being the side that I like in this one, even with all of those injuries, not injuries, even with their starters being out, all of the ones on the Cleveland side of things kind of make me like the Indiana squad. And I don't think Cleveland, like I think maybe a week ago, they moved on from the regular season. You know what I mean? Whereas Indiana clearly kept winning games. So I'm going to lean towards Indiana here, minus the 5.5. In terms of the total, I think it's a little bit too low. But again, a lot of guys that put up numbers for both of these squads are out. So let's keep that in mind. I'm still going to lean towards the over, though. But I don't think that the defense is going to be as good on Cleveland side of things, I guess, nor on the Pacers side of things with some of these guys being out. Chicago taking on Philadelphia. Now, the Chicago team is in the 9 spot in the playoffs, so they already know that they're going to be a play-in team. Josh Giddey's out, Trey Jones out, Lonzo Ball out, Terry is questionable. But it looks like they'll have Vooch, Bazelis, Herter, and White as their normal starters. On the other side of things, we know that this Philly team is just injury-ridden, and also sitting some guys. But Grimes and Edwards also listed as questionable. If those guys don't play, I really don't mind the idea of the Bulls here. They should be able to shoot fairly well from the perimeter. This Bulls team closing out the year strongly. Now, have they had the hardest of competition? I would not say that, but I do give them credit for, kind of still playing in a sense, and yeah, their seeding isn't really going to switch up all that much or at all in a sense. So sure, I think that this is going to be a spot in which Chicago goes out there and plays. The problem being they are a playoff team, so if they get up on this Philly team, 9 points in the fourth quarter, 9 points in the third quarter, there's a chance that they take their foot off the gas, because though they're a low seed play-in playoff team, we don't necessarily expect them to be like, oh, there's no chance we could get, knock on wood, injured, right? Like Kobe White's out there playing 45 minutes. I don't know about that. Vucevic, I don't know about that. So I lean Chicago, but maybe a Chicago first half on the spread here. In fact, let's see what we can get for a line there. I'm assuming it's around, 4 or 5, just given the full game total. But in the NBA, sometimes they do switch these things up. So let's see if we can get an updated line on Chicago taking on Philadelphia. Boom. First half spread. 6.5. Yeah, is there alternate lines out there? 5.5 for -110 over on Caesars. That could be something that we can consider overall, because I think Chicago is in a spot where, yeah, they're sitting some guys. I think they'll start off hot, but they're probably like, oh, we can't even afford one injury. Never mind, some of these guys being banged up. Total-wise, I think Chicago team total over. That might be a way to go as well. Hey, real quick, guys, I know we're flying through these games and we don't even have many player props today. I guess apologies for that, but I hope you understand totally why, right? Like, this is a just end of the season, let's fill it up type of a slate. This is not a slate in which many teams, there are some matchups that, it matters and whatnot, but this is a spot in which 90% of the games don't necessarily matter for the play-ins, for the playoffs to come, and that type of stuff. So, yeah, unfortunately, we are in that circumstance, but, it's just one day. We'll move on to the playoffs shortly enough, and we'll be back to our, normal breaking down. Some of you guys saying that I talk too much over these games. We won't be flying through these games at the speed of light. But keep an eye on the final plays for any ads or anything like that, like I always say. But I just wanted to say that I acknowledge that we're flying through this, and hopefully that reason, I guess, makes sense why, at least. All right, Atlanta taking on Orlando. This is another one in which it looks like we're going to have to wait this injury report out. Now, in terms of starters, there's 10 on the floor, right? 8 of these guys combined are listed as questionable. You have Corey Joseph, Caldwell Pope, Wagner, Banchero, and Wendell Carter. So all of the starters for this Orlando team questionable. And then you have Atlanta's Trae Young, Dyson Daniels, and Okongwu listed as questionable. So obviously we want to wait this one out. I would say if we have any sort of guys play on the Orlando side of things, I think this is an Orlando spot. We've seen this matchup, a couple times now fairly recently, late February, and then, just about a week ago in April, and Orlando won by 6 and then by 7. I think the defense matters in this one. Now, if they don't play, you know what I mean, like Wagner and Banchero, I don't necessarily know where these points come from. And regardless of Trae Young or Dyson Daniels, I think that this Atlanta team may have a little bit more of pace in them, you know what I mean? And they have Richiche, who's obviously a really good player, and it looks like he may be playing. Some of those bench guys like LeVert and Yang, I'm not sure if they're going to be listed to go as well, but I would pretty much put it as this if I were to say it simply. I like Orlando as long as they have, Wagner and or Banchero. If they don't have them, I almost, regardless of injury, like Atlanta, because I think that the pace will uptick, and I don't think Orlando's going to be able to keep up with that. They're not going to have their cemented defense or anything like that, right? So, yeah, that's how I'd probably end up playing it, but then we're going to have to wait this one out now. It is a 1 o'clock start, so it's not like we have to wait that long, but that is kind of where I'm aiming here. Now, in terms of the total, it's kind of the exact same thing. If Atlanta is in here, I think that their best bet is to run it up and try and run. Now, Wagner and Banchero, half-court type players, they can run in transition as well. So I think I'm going to lean towards the over in this one regardless, but I would probably prefer Orlando if we got some updates on those injuries. But I have a feeling these guys aren't playing. But if they do, then we might race to the winner to place that, because I think Orlando's defense can definitely, stop anything that Atlanta throws at them, especially if Atlanta's guys are injured. All right, Celtics taking on Charlotte. I don't really know what to make of this one, just because, one, Charlotte is terrible. Two, the Celtics are throwing their B team out there, but their B team's still pretty good, right? Like we saw their B team look pretty good the other night in this exact same matchup. So, yeah, I want to say that this is the Celtics spot for -12 because Charlotte truly has just thrown in the towel. I don't think that there's any denying that. Maybe we look at a Charlotte team total under. I kind of like the idea of Peyton Pritchard in terms of some sort of a same game parlay. Like if we can put a bunch of his stats together, because right now his 23.5 points seems a little bit high to take independently. 4.5 threes seems a little bit high, but if we could go like Peyton Pritchard 18 plus points and 3+3, something like that, it could work. But then that's a lot of line massaging going on. You know what I mean? So I would lean towards something like that. Maybe if we can get a bunch of these guys to hit a 3, throw Hauser in the mix, that type of a thing. In terms of a play that we could roll with would be Charlotte team total under 101.5. I think it's another team that has kind of just given up, and when they play the Celtics, they hover right around that number, last time being just 94 points from them. And again, that was a game in which we saw a very, very similar matchup, players wise. So yeah, maybe that's a spot that we could look at. Charlotte, and I think was the other team total under we liked, Washington being another one that I could probably end up getting behind, but 101.5 does seem like it's just kind of low. But the Charlotte team should be ready for vacation. They should be out of here, you know what I mean? So that's kind of my thought process behind it. Spurs taking on Toronto. So this one kind of, I guess, comes down to who's going to be caring about this game, right? Because neither one of these squads, it's not like their season's going to get affected by it. You have Toronto, who is, the 11th seed, but that don't count. It's close, but no cigar. On the other side of things, you have the Spurs, who are definitely out of the playoffs here. So who really wants to play this game? Probably neither squad, yet that total up at 229, I think, is a little bit high. So I'm actually going to lean towards the under first, just due to the fact that I think Toronto, late in the year, kind of like this, doesn't necessarily, want to push the pace, even though they're the team that's most likely carrying the pace. But if you look at who's playing for them, right, it's not exactly this normal Toronto team. In fact, let's pull that up so we have the update. So it's Shed, Agbaji, Battle, Barnes, and Mogbo starting. And again, I keep giving shout out to Scotty Barnes for clearly refusing to do what I believe Pirtle, Quickly, RJ Barrett, and Brandon Ingram. Who knows what's up with him since they traded for him? But you know what I mean? He stuck it out and played. I do think that that's a decent look for him, but kind of a mishmash of starters, right? And you look at them recently, and their offense hasn't really been all that great. I mean, look at that game against Dallas. They got smoked, and it would have stayed under this line just slightly. I don't think the Spurs are nearly the offense that Dallas is. So under is going to be the main play, but Toronto I do kind of lean towards. Because of the young talent. This is the Spurs team that's still throwing Harrison Barnes, Biyombo, Chris Paul out there. You think these guys are fired up for game number 82 in which they can't make the playoffs? I do not think so. Memphis taking on Dallas. So Memphis looking like they're going to be a play-in team here. and kind of stinks. But that was pure, like I've been saying, that was amazing to see how this was breaking out in the West, right? I do still think that this is a game in which Memphis cares about because Mavericks are going up against also they're the 10 seed, right? So I think that this is kind of a spot in which we see a close game. Now, if you do take a peek at the injuries, it looks like Memphis wouldn't think that, right? Pretty much their entire starting lineup is out, but on the other side, no PJ Washington, no Clay, no Anthony Davis, Derek Lively, Martin, like this Dallas team is throwing their B squad out there, whereas I think Memphis's bench is good now. Some of these guys, don't play all that much, but I still do think that Memphis, is well coached. They're at home here, and 2.5 doesn't seem all that crazy to me. So yeah, maybe it's Memphis's C team, honestly, because they have, I want to say it's like 8 guys, their top 8 listed as questionable but doubtful. So sure, maybe it's a little bit crazy, but I kind of like Memphis in this spot. In terms of the total 228, I don't think there's any guarantee that this Memphis team can run, given the lineup that they have today. I think that they're going to probably play a little bit more half-court basketball. I do lean under, but I'll tell you right now, I'm probably not pulling the trigger on it because we get, what, screwed every single time we end up rolling with a Memphis under. So I lean under, but I think that it stops right there at a lean. And then I don't have any player props in this one. I thought about looking at Daniel Gafford or someone like that on the Dallas side of things who is kind of a legitimate player, Spencer Dinwiddie, but who even knows the minutes behind this, right? Sacramento taking on the Suns, and I get why this number is where it is. I mean, this Phoenix team is just... like, have you seen what's come out? Like Bradley Beal talking about it, Devin Booker being like, "Oh, I appreciate the fans that came today. Maybe it's the last time you see me." Like, yikes. Whereas Sacramento's sitting here being like, "Okay, well, we're in the playoffs. Like, we probably still want to play some decent basketball." I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, the 9 and 10 seed's still kind of up for grabs. So Sacramento should try here. Do we like them minus 15? Hell no. But I could see like a first half play in which they come out just by far and away being the better team. I mean, no Malik Monk, but other than that, and he's been coming off the bench too, like their starting lineups. So I see why Sacramento is favored by so much. This is the B squad pretty much of Phoenix, and that ain't a good thing, right? You have no Durant, no Booker, no Beal, no Nick Richards, Tyus Jones, Grayson Allen, Ryan Dunn, Gillespie, and Agado. Don't know too much about him, if I'm being honest. But that's their squad. Now, some of these guys obviously played some good minutes during the year, but I just can't look at that squad and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to back them today." You do get plus 15, so if you're crazy, I get it. But I think that this Phoenix team is just, there's too much drama going on right now. Whereas Sacramento, probably, regardless of if they can, switch that 9-10 spot, regardless of that, I don't think it matters really. But they probably want to build some momentum heading into the playoffs. And I know that I'm saying a lot of probablys or maybes in today's video, but what do you want me to do, right? This is the messiest NBA slate we've had all year long. In terms of a total, I do think that, there's an argument to be made for an under. Sacramento, who's a team that likes to score, in the mid-range and in the paint, they'll most likely be counting by 2s. And Phoenix would be kind of crazy to run in transition. They have a terrible transition defense. And, not that Sacramento would take advantage of it and start running their slow-paced team too, but I think the Phoenix, the only way that they keep this close, and maybe some of those guys playing once the ball, goes up for tip, they say, "Hey, screw it, let's play some basketball," because the drama guys aren't playing. So I'm going to lean towards an under 224 here. That's probably a spot in which I could almost convince myself of rolling with. We've seen plenty of overs between these two teams recently and their head-to-heads, but I don't really see where all of the points come from today, especially like Phoenix. I don't really know where their points come from, but their team total is super, super low, so I don't think that I'm going to be touching that one. All right, Houston taking on Denver. Denver wants this win to get that 4 seed, right? To make sure they are the 4 seed. Looks like they're going to be fully healthy. Same thing with Houston. I do think Denver wins this game, whereas Houston, is cozy. They're 2 games above the Lakers for the 2 seed. They're not losing that. They're a million games behind the Thunder, so they don't have to worry about moving up, whereas Denver right now tied with the Clips for that 4-5 seed. And that's the difference of being the top half or the bottom half of the playoffs, you know what I mean? In terms of your 1 through 8 seed after the play-ins and stuff. So I think Denver wants this one, and I do think that, since getting rid of the coach and kind of ironing things out, Denver's looked decent. Right now they beat Sacramento. That was a decent game for them, and they beat them by like 8. Then they beat Memphis. That was a big game for them. They won by, what was that, 8 as well, actually, now that I think about it. So I think Denver kind of comes in here and takes care of business. They're 8.5-point favorites. Now that says 9.5. That is a big number, but ultimately, if the Nuggets want to win this one, I think that they can. You look at Houston's defense, and again, they're going to be pretty healthy, but Houston's defense lately hasn't been. Now, they've had some guys in and out, but last 3 games, take it with a grain of salt, only 3 games, especially at the end of the year, 7th most points in the paint allowed. Denver, number 1 scoring in the paint this year in terms of points. And then from 3, which Denver doesn't really prioritize, but if they do, this is a nice stat too, 4th most points in the points from 3 allowed per game. So sure, Houston's a good team, and I do think that, but I think that in the isolation, this is going to be a Denver team that can score. I think they'll be able to score in the pull-up jumpers and just too many ways that Denver can score to kind of pull away from this one. Now, that total is at 233.5. I think both of these teams have to prioritize defense. We know Houston will, and they've been kind of off, so maybe they come in here being like, all right, let's slow things down and let's play some damn D, right? Whereas Denver, I think when Denver plays their best basketball, it's at their own pace, and they're playing, somewhat slow as well. So I could see this being like a 10-point win. Denver 213 to 113 to 103. Denver, maybe 220 to even 120 to even like a 113 would hit the under here, right? So yeah, I think Denver slows this one down, and Houston accepts that and says, yeah, let's play some defense. I'm going to lean under in this spot. From a player prop perspective, we did have one that we were kind of taking a peek at. I don't know if it ends up getting here. Oh, Aaron Gordon over 3.5 assists. Aaron Gordon likes to score inside off of cuts, but I do think that they'll kind of swarm the paint, especially when Jokic gets in there. If they pass to Aaron Gordon, they will send a couple guys at him, and I think we're going to see a few more of these spot-up type looks for the Nuggets, hopefully coming out of Aaron Gordon's hands when he kind of gets swallowed up down low. Minnesota taking on Utah, 23-point favorites is crazy. Yes, I think Minnesota wins this game. Yes, I think that they play really well, but I don't know about a 232 total. If you have a 23-point favorite in this spot, I don't see how, both teams contribute. Minnesota will probably score a decent amount. Obviously, I'll give you that. I can't really deny it. But they're also not in need of doing that, right? Like, are they really going to race up and down the court in a spot in which they don't necessarily need to? I don't think so. So yeah, I'll lean Minnesota. I'm not touching a 23-point spread, but I'll lean towards the under, honestly, because I don't think Utah really cares much about this season anymore, nor should they. All right, New Orleans taking on the Thunder. Everybody and their grandmother's ex-boyfriend out for the Thunder. Kind of the same thing for New Orleans. So who do you want here? I'm going to take New Orleans. I don't think the Thunder care about this. Their starting lineups, Isaiah Joe, Wiggins, Dylan Jones, Kenrich Williams, and then the big Jalen Williams. Those guys do play, so I get it. Maybe that's helpful for this OKC team, but what do they care, right? Like, they just want to make sure some of these guys who actually play minutes probably don't end up getting hurt, whereas Elfrid Payton, Jose Alvarado, Brooks, Robinson Earl, Kyler Kelly starting for New Orleans, these guys are probably going to come in fired up and wanting to play because they don't get that opportunity often, right? Maybe that's just my sick brain thinking that, but I like the Pelicans as well as the under because given these two teams, I don't exactly see where like a boatload of points comes from. I can't sit here and say the defense is going to be great, so if you like the over, I understand it, but I'm going to lean under. All right, Lakers taking on Portland in terms of the injury report. LeBron's out, Luka's out, Rui Hachimura's out, Finney Smith is out, Austin Reeves is out. So B team of the Lakers, but going up against the Portland team who's kind of had the B team rolling for a while now. But LA's on the road, and they clearly aren't giving their best effort in terms of players here. So I don't really mind the idea of Portland. I do think that, even with the playoffs aside, there's kind of a chance here that this Portland team may have brighter times ahead, which sounds kind of crazy, but, there were times in which they looked pretty good this year. So, yeah, I think that that's the direction I'll lean in. I also don't mind the idea of Dalton Knecht here over 20.5 points. I just think he's going to jack. So maybe I like his threes in some sort of same game parlay where maybe we can get like 15 plus points and 3+ threes, something like that. But yeah, that's going to be a player prop that I look at. In terms of a total, I don't mind the idea of, Portland playing defense and maybe saying, okay, well, let's stop the Lakers, and we end up, looking at a spot in which Lakers team total under comes through. All right, Golden State taking on the Clips here, and this one obviously being a game that matters. We have Steph Curry listed as questionable, though. On the other side of things, the starting lineup looks good to go for the Clippers. Just in the standings, Clippers right now tied with the Nuggets, so they're probably going to really care about this game. And they're only a game up on the Warriors. The Warriors are tied with the Timberwolves. So both these teams playing for something, right? if Steph doesn't play, I think you know immediately where we would go to, taking a peek at the Clips. But you know, if Steph does play, this Warriors team has been playing some really good basketball. You can't say that the Clippers haven't. I'm not trying to make that argument, but it's a matter of one team's at home and one team's not here. So 3 points doesn't seem like it's all that much. The Clippers have won 5 or 6 straight against this Warriors squad, and they've covered in 5 straight. Warriors are absolutely due at some point, right? They've lost all the games to the Clippers this year. I don't think that in a not must make or must win type of a game, but a game that matters standings wise, which it's the last game of the year, that's pretty important. I don't think the Warriors come into this one lightly. It's going to come down to Steph, but give me the Warriors if he plays. If he doesn't, I'm happy to flip over the Clippers and honestly maybe potentially make that a final play. In terms of a total, I do think defense is going to be the prioritized form here, so I don't mind an under. The one thing that I will say is the last few times that they've played, it's been pretty damn low scoring in all of the games this year. So hopefully that trend continues, but we're trying to buck the trend in terms of the side. So I really hope that this doesn't lead towards like another flip. It's like, oh, we should have just gone with the Warriors who haven't been winning against this Clippers team and the opposite in the total because it's always been under. But that is what we're leaning towards as of right now. Guys, keep an eye on the final plays down. That link will be in the pinned comment because anything can happen today, and we only have a short amount of time to get these in because a lot of like 1 o'clock games and stuff. So I don't think they want to conflict with the Masters, and it's the last game of the year. So go ahead and check that out. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, comment 30 if you made it this far in the video. Very interested to see some of the OGs and real ones that are sticking around in such a volatile time in the NBA. But like I said in my recent videos, that means the world to me, right? Like it's tough to obviously talk about these games because it's a lot of if, ands, or buts, but we still love basketball. We're still going to be watching games today, you know, along with the Masters, which is going to be electric. So very, very appreciative of all you guys tuning in and putting your eyeballs and ears to this. So really do appreciate it. We had a great NBA season, channel-wise and record-wise. So I'm just thankful, and I hope that we can keep heading into the playoffs in the right direction. So catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.